Okay, so this video is going to be about the deltoids here. It's a very important muscle group, meaty part of the shoulder here. So there's a lot of muscle mass relative to other muscles in this area, specifically the rotator cuff muscles. So if you have rotator cuff issues, maybe you had rotator cuff surgery, the deltoids are very important because you're going to get a lot of strength and stability from those muscles that you're not going to be able to recruit from other muscles. To assist in your recovery or your recalibration of those elements within the shoulder complex. Muscles like the pectorals, or especially pec major, it's a really big muscle, but what it's going to do when it's overactive is kind of pull your shoulder and shoulder blade out of position. So there has to be checks and balances there, throughout the scapular area, but it just isn't going to work for some like lifting up here. It's more of a down and in, like a climbing muscle. These are more lifting muscles. So a lot of those reaching, lifting tasks that can be painful or difficult or weak, you want to have that there. So very important muscle group. So I consider them to be like the glutes of the shoulder, right? They're not as big and strong as glutes, but nothing is in the arms. But they're very important, especially with rotator cuff issues. So here we go. So we've got some weights here. If you're really struggling with this, you don't have to start with weights. In fact, you may want to start with some assistance from like a stick or a wand or something, broom handle, whatever you have to kind of guide that, give some support. Because the problem here is that if we bring the arm out straight, that's a lot of leverage. The other problem is if we shorten the arm, now we have leverage this way, which is going to, especially if you add weight, that's going to challenge your rotator cuff muscles. So just be careful that you're not overworking those muscles no matter which way you're going with that. I generally prefer this one regardless, but if you're fresh off of rotator cuff surgery, you probably don't want to overstress those muscles anyway. So you're better off doing like an isometric, pushing out against like a wall. And if you're on a corner or a doorway, you can push forward and then pull back. So the relevance of that is when you push out to the side, middle deltoid right along the side of your arm, push forward, it's more the anterior deltoid when you pull back, and be sure that your arm isn't like way back behind you when you do that, especially after surgery. You want to make sure that you're more either neutral or slightly forward, so you're in a more natural position for the shoulder where it can stabilize better. That would be the posterior deltoid back there when you pull back, okay? So strengthening wise, if we're able to do that, we can think about that same thing. So it's kind of like a chicken wing coming out to the side here. And if I kind of come forward, it's kind of more forward bias here. And then back would be kind of like if I pulled that back, again, like try not to go too far back with it, but you want to have a sense there. And if I want to kind of link all three of them, if I'm able to do that without too much discomfort or without it being a problem, okay, I'm going to bring that elbow up maybe to 90. If it's a problem at 90, it can be a little less. If you have like shoulder impingement, keep it a little lower, but you want to have that sense of that weight pulling down. And then you're going to go forward, back to middle, back. And you can move your body a little bit with it just to kind of help guide those things. But you want to really feel as you're holding that weight up there that those muscles are really working up here. You can, if you can reach across with this hand, just kind of palpate that and make sure. You probably can feel the distinction, right? If I'm pulling more forward, I can feel that front muscle right there. And then if I'm more on the side, I can feel it more there. And you feel all three of them there too, but mostly in the center. And when you pull back more, again, make sure you're pulling that shoulder blade back with it as well and not just like here, right? Because that'll put a lot of stress in that shoulder. But you want to be able to go back and forth smoothly, kind of working those muscles there, or you can go up and in, as long as it's not too pinching or too painful. But those are muscles you really want to be, working without overworking like the rotator cuff and all that, because you need those muscles to stabilize and to get the actual lift, especially as you go up into those higher ranges, because this is where a lot of pinching happens in there. And so if those muscles aren't strong, you overload those rotator cuff muscles, and they're trying to move through the rotation and stabilize at the same time, and they just get overloaded. So you want to have the ability to use those deltoids for whatever the rotator cuff muscles aren't doing, or vice versa, so they can work together.